Simon, you live?
Hey everybody, Simon Dixon here, and welcome to, we're getting a bit Christmassy today, ho, 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 ho. And it's another really shitty week in Chapter 11, but I'm going to go through what's been happening on these Chapter 11s and how to maximize Chapter 11. We're going live each and every week, trying to support people, which seems to be this ever-growing and growing community of people stuck in Chapter 11. So I hope the content has been helping you as we go through. What a piece of shit these people putting us in Chapter 11s are. So it seems that we're still being scammed by Alex Majinski, and SBF thinks that he's, completely compulsive lying around some of the things that have happened. If you watch the interview on the Twitter space yesterday, what a shit show it was. However, we did need to get a few key points out of it, and I'm going to go through all the updates today. So if you didn't see the last tweet, it seems like Celsius, who is definitely not your friend, prefers predatory cash offers to giving shares to creditors. They would much rather sell your assets to predators rather than sell or give your shares to creditors. I'll tell you all about the story when the time is right. Now is not the exact time for that, but I'll make sure that if you carry on, subscribe to this channel, the second I can, I'll be able to spill the beans and share with you what happened there as well. So anyway, we still continue on. And I'll share with you some of the updates about maximizing Chapter 11 and always the technology that we're building at Bank to the Future in order to make this process the maximum creditors first plan. Obviously, we are starting to get not creditors first plans, but I want to apologize for Celsius, even though I don't represent Celsius, for them stringing you along for all this time. And all those people, we've had lots of battles with people along the way. Some of my biggest critics were really gearing up for this Celsius reorg, and I'm sorry that that you're now finally starting to see that they've been stringing you along the whole time, and finally we're starting to see that it is the bidding process. So we'll go through a little bit deeper into that as we go through this presentation, but I just want to apologize for those of you that put so much time, energy, and effort, and even so much energy into trying to discredit me because you wanted the Celsius reorg to happen, and now you're actually starting to see the true colors, and that this is all one big ginormous game, playing with creditors' money, filing to court in order to sell your coins, own your coins, and then own your assets that were spent with our money by the same company where Alex Majinski is still the largest shareholder and the director of the holding company. Coming out and resurfacing and trying to use this opportunity with SBF being such a villain at the moment to try and say that I'm not, I'm less of the two villains. It's an absolute shit show. I apologize for the industry, and I can't wait for next year to get back to building this industry away from these 2017 flywoe scamming pieces of shit that are putting us through these processes. I'm sorry for the passion right now, but I'm just so fed up of these people that printed their own money in 2017, used that in order to create these flywheel Ponzi scheme models, and then they've really used that in order to play, these do-kwons that decided to play central banker when we created the industry to try and come against central bankers, and these Alex Majinskis that wanted to play VC funds with our money, and then they try and own their assets and own our money, and these SBFs that try to play hedge funds with our money after printing their own money and just really making a mockery of our entire industry. And now we get to pick up the pieces with these scammers away from us, hopefully, and rebuild and try and win back trust in what was originally a trustless model where Bitcoin gave you the ability to own your own money, spend your own money, and have a fixed money supply rather than print your own money, take your own money, file in court to own your own money, and file in court in order to own our assets and sell them to predators where they buy in the peak of the bull market and sell at the bottom of the market. Pieces of shit. Anyway, let's jump in. I'm going to do a screen share some of the things that we're doing to try and support creditors in these creditor first plans, rather than actually playing these games and getting everyone behind Celsius first plans. Okay, so hopefully you can see my screen now. As always, I'm going to share things on the screen share on, trying to fix the industry that we've been supporting right from the very first Bitcoin conference in the world, supporting companies that are doing real things, while we have all these 2017 flywheel wannabes come along and mess up our industry for us to try and come along and fix later. So if you are stuck in chapter 11, I'm going to be sharing how to maximize the process. This is my first chapter 11, if you're not familiar. I had at the peak $45 million of personal assets on Celsius. There's now probably going to be worth about $5 million, depending on where it comes out. Now we also, had company funds there and some clients as well. So we've been working really, really hard in order to put creditors first rather than Celsius first. Celsius duped the community into thinking that they were looking out for their interests and putting creditors first. And now everybody's experiencing what they're actually doing as they file motions in order to own our coins, sell our coins, and own our assets and sell them for pennies on the dollar to predators, rather than give the shares to us, which is what we've been fighting for and pushing forward and using all the different processes in order to try and achieve it. We're still going to be some updates anyway. Just to know, if you're not familiar, none of this should be treated as legal advice, investment advice, or tax advice. We have to say that. Bank to the Future has funded many of these companies or in portfolio, 100 different companies. Our worst investment to date was Celsius on the top left, but we've done many other companies that have become multi-billion-dollar unicorns. The game of VC investing is full disclosure. You invest in a few that blow up and become bad ones like Celsius, and the ones that go on an IPO or exit like Bitstamp or Kraken, that becomes like a multi-billion-dollar unicorn, or Ripple or Circle or Robinhood and Coinbase that goes public. And the other ones like Securitize and FE Bank that try to follow the law rather than break the law. So this experience comes, as we said, Kraken was the one that had to fix up the Mt. Gox mess originally, and Jesse Powell, the ex-CEO, was sharing exactly how exposing some of SBF's lies from the interview we gave yesterday. Bitfinex got hacked for 119,000 Bitcoin, and rather than pretending that they're going to do stuff, they launched the first security token, filled the hole, and used financial innovation rather than going people through this incredibly expensive legal process and continuing to scam them so that they all get incredibly high salaries, lawyers get paid, professionals get paid, and they take more and more of our coins as they file in court in order to sell them and sell our assets for pennies on the dollars. Instead, they decided to give their shares to the community. And they had, rather than a 30-cent recovery on the dollar, a 16-cent dollar recovery on the dollar, plus all the dividends and returned coins. We also supported Tether when they had a challenge with a hole. And more recently, all this experience in Chapter 11 is coming from Alex Majinski scamming us and not following any of the laws and regulations and creating an illegal hedge fund that put us in Chapter 11, where he played fake VC with our money, and put us in this place where we're fighting for our coins and fighting for our assets. So to give you a quick update, it's good to see some of the progress that's been happening in Voyager. Remember, they released a reorg plan very early, but they realized that it was going to go through the bid because it was an illegal operation that didn't have the licenses, and then they stopped pretending that they're going to reorg and instead just put it through the bidding process and ended up selling it to a shyster, SBF, FTX, that was trying to cover up some of the criminality that happened as a result of their loans and using client money. Embarrassing for the industry. Binance has come along and said they're going to enter the bidding process. And also there was this announcement this week that INX, which is great to see because security tokens is an industry that we've been supporting since it started in 2017. But INX might be able to turn that into some financial innovation. They released a blog around the model that we created for Bitfinex in 2016, and they hopefully might be able to do that for Voyager. We'll see where that one progresses, and maybe they go back into auction. We'll see, but they're going through the auction process. Celsius announced today that they're selling some of their assets off bit by bit after pretending that they're doing a reorg, and getting all the community investing lots and lots of time into that process. And now Galaxy Digital comes along, which is Mike Novogratz, who had Luna tattooed on him because they were really affected. They tried to buy BitGo for $1 billion. The market corrected. They probably got themselves in a mess there. So instead, they're buying GK8, which was essentially a creditor's asset that Alex Maszynski bought at the peak of the market and is going to be selling for pennies on the dollars at the bottom of the market using our creditors' funds. Thanks again, still scamming. And so Galaxy Digital is the latest announcement today. We used financial innovation in order to put forward a process. And as I said, they prefer predatory offers for cash rather than giving to creditors their assets and implementing some of the things that we've been building that we'd like to share with you today that hopefully get to be used for further parts of the process that we've been put into as well. And then finally, FTX is looking like it's moving into complete Chapter 7 liquidation as we're uncovering more and more assets, Bohemian property all around the world that they bought. And SBF is going on a roadshow and, trying to cover up all of the criminality that was involved. We exposed yesterday about him trying to describe how margin trading was giving a reason for people to use client assets and explaining it completely incorrectly rather than actually people, having a complete misrepresentation. And obviously apologizing, I guess it's one different step. And we're getting to see how these crazy characters act and how they're all intertwined with each other as well. Can't wait to flush them all out and get back to building what we originally tried to create here, rather than all these 2017 flywheel money printers that have made a mockery of our industry by scamming and services that they've created. We also had BlockFi join the industry, $1 billion exposed to Almeida and SBF using these crazy collateralized FTT loans all of these crazy intertwined. As we said, if you watch my previous videos, we've got to unwind the whole yield industry as it was all based upon token flywheels, fake yield, illegal operations that are saying, let's compete with the regulated institutions by putting our yield up and subsidizing that through tokens, market manipulation, and everything that's going to come out in the examiner reports that happen. We've got the next phase of the examiner report for Celsius coming out in January, where it focuses on sell token market price manipulation and also the misrepresentations by the scammers that essentially were telling everyone that this is safer than a bank and using the token in order to try and make people think that these balance sheets were better than they were. And then obviously BlockFi was lending to these FTX that was using their token as a collateral in these crazy loans that are all going to be covered in these examiner reports. The difference with BlockFi is they actually came out with a reorg plan straight away, really exposing that Celsius and the crazy shenanigans that has taken them months and months and months to put together their fake Kelvin plan or whatever it may be, and lead all of those creditors that have been putting lots and lots of time, hope, and energy into trying to support Celsius as we really find out what their true colors are. And remember that these people in charge of Celsius, they were put in by Alex Maszynski. Alex Maszynski is still the major shareholder, and he's still the director of the holding company. And essentially, Celsius is the one calling the shots, putting us through these crazy things in order to essentially just sell off our assets for pennies on the dollars, rather than actually issuing those shares and giving people the opportunity to voluntarily invest. So this week, I've been trying to help people understand that selling our coins is an involuntary investment, and not issuing those shares to creditors and giving them things like rights issues, which we've been building lots of technology in order to support, is essentially a forced investment, continuing to go through the worst possible type of process, rather than giving full transparency, leaving the community guessing what was happening with these companies, what the deals look like, what the financial position, allowing people to argue, is it profitable, isn't it profitable? But do you really expect anything different? Because at the end of the day, the GK8 team were scammed by Alex Majinski as well, and they probably, they probably got a really, really bad deal, and they're just trying to extract value from the estate as well as a result of being shafted by these organizations. Okay, so remember what I covered last week? I talked about 4 different processes. So for those of you that are new to chapter 11, when it goes so far down criminality and fraud and Ponzi schemes, it ends up in chapter 7, where the US trustee takes over and tries to just liquidate the assets. Either that, or the examiner comes along in the chapter 11 process, realizes and spends all of our money on examinations and figuring out what happened. All the lawyers extract as much value as possible, the professionals extract as much value as possible, and then they go and sell the assets with no vote. Or they go for a cash bid auction where you have no vote as well, which is the real process. And so that's what we're going through in Celsius at the moment. But you can also use the auction process in order to get a reorganization. So we put together actually how to use the process just to give everyone all their coins in custody so they can withdraw them into self-custody, and all of their assets issued to them as shares, so that they can actually voluntarily decide to take some of their coins that they own in custody, and actually reinvest it through a rights issue. We've created innovative processes, very similar, not what we did to Bitfinex, but really adjusted for Chapter 11, invested significant resources so that everyone could get their assets, everyone could get their coins, and then engage in voluntary investment rather than the companies applying to court to sell our assets and do it for us. And then also the standalone reorganization, which is essentially where the company pretends that it's going to come along and reopen the company, and take everyone down a pony trap show that you then might get a vote on in the end. But normally you need a company that hasn't engaged in scamming and criminal activities in order to have a chance and stay on the same line of business as well as before. So those are the different processes. Now we're going to be starting it all over again with FTX and BlockFi, and Voyager going through their process, and more to come. We got a lot of experience, and we built lots of technology to support people through these crazy phases. Just before we head over to Twitter Spaces, we've got another 10 minutes to go. We're going to do a quick demo of how to get through some of these processes using financial innovation like we always had, solving our industry with free market, voluntary investment, giving people their own assets in custody, and their coins in custody as well. So the 3 phases that we're now building technology in order to support creditors through this process, based upon all the experience that we've been through, is the real 3 phases. The first one is how to actually your claim. As the bankruptcy process comes along, we now know what happens. People think that their coins are going to be, returned to them, and if their Matic or something goes up, then they think they're going to do better than those. Or if their coins crash, we know the process now. We've seen it a few times. Those things get, the best process is to convert those into pristine collateral. And rather than pretending that everyone's coins are going to do better, you actually just get equally distributed across the estate. And we've got algorithms that we can build by following these Chapter 11 processes, so people can really follow along in real time what their claims are likely to be in these cryptocurrency cases with very complex. And the further you can get away from those companies pretending that they're reorganizing so they can all take massive salaries and spend our money, and go to file in court and get us to spend all our money, what they owe to us based upon these criminal holes that they've created, the better, so that you can understand what your claim is likely to be. So our team will follow along and you can connect your account to Bank to the Future, and we're building algorithms so that you can follow it to see what it would look like if it liquidated at that stage, based upon the latest on the process. The second phase is actually deciding what to do with your claim. So in the future, you could use part of your claim to fund an ad hoc group to try and represent your interest. You could try and fund a bidder, so that whereby you could allocate some of your claim in order to fund a bidder, or those that actually need access to those funds, rather than just being sold to a predator, you can be put up with other claim people, other creditors that may want to match up and put those orders. So we've decided that we're going to start building that so everybody can avoid all of these predators. And then finally, voluntarily investing your claim. So we've been building lots of technology so that you don't go through what we've been through in Celsius, where they start filing to court, forcing you to invest in their startup with no business plan whatsoever, no recovery plan, nothing that they've shown us, and then just start asking us to spend our money and go on this crazy where we're all arguing with each other because they don't release the information and they only release it to bidders. But if they just simply did the process the right way, the free market works, they could give people their funds in custody, and then they can pitch, reveal their plans, and people can decide to voluntarily invest rather than actually being forced to invest into these startups and reorganizations. So I'm just going to show you some of the different things that we've got coming at Bank to the Future. And we continue to go through the Celsius process. And remember, we have one goal from the beginning, which is creditors first. And creditors first means all of your coins in custody so that you can reclaim them, and all of your assets that they spent with our money to you using trust structures that actually allows us to, rather than them spending our assets and selling our assets, and then voluntary investing so that you can allocate some of your funds to them once they give you full disclosure, to really reverse this process, add more transparency, and creditors be treated with the same respect the bidders are treated with when they try and scoop up your assets for pennies on the dollars, so that they can benefit their shareholders as a result of all these activities that happened. Okay, so remember, there's two ways to recover: is cash and it's securities. So just by putting that in custody and giving you your ownership, we've seen it all with Celsius, and then taking all the things that they bought with our assets and allocating to them so that they can be unwound, but rather than staying in chapter 7, which takes 2 years to liquidate, or a fake chapter 11 reorg, which takes months and months and months of getting past regulators and all this stuff, everything just get put in trust, and then those can actually been sold for the benefit of creditors. Or you can start those companies again if enough creditors want to allocate funds to them, so that you have maximum choice in these processes. Okay, so I'm just going to give a few demos, which are the types of things we can do here. So I'm going to head over to the web page. Let's go to Google. So as I said, we keep building this out. We started with the beta of Celsius. We've developed processes for entering into the bidding process or working with the reorg, so that everyone can get their funds in custody and everyone can get their assets and securities in, so that these can be managed over a timely fashion, rather than just being sold for pennies on the dollars, so that you can use the bidding process to actually act for the creditors rather than act for those bidders. We know that because we've been through the process. So for those of you that haven't done it, we've had hundreds of millions of people that are using our dashboard so that they can see those claims and have real-time updates in terms of what the value of those recoveries might be if they ended, if those companies would stop spending our money and applying to courts. We'll continue to update that as well. We've had lots and lots of feedback around those that had loans as well. And we've been working on great processes for how to manage those. So we'll continue to do that. You can import your Chapter 11 claims. Remember, despite what all the FUDsters that are trying to discredit us say, this is just a dashboard for informational purposes. You'll be able to do your FTX claims, your Voyager claims, and various other things so that you can engage in these processes. As new initiatives come along, you can use, for example, some of our secondary markets. So for example, if a new bidder comes along or a company or an asset needs to do a rights issue, you could take some of those claims and indicate that you'd like to invest. And then rather than just selling it off to the lowest bidder, as we're seeing with GK8, if you've got founders that are pissed off because they got scammed by Majinski as well and Celsius, then you could decide that you wanted to fund those with your claim. And if they can't raise money in the free market by voluntary investment, they don't deserve it by non-voluntary investment as well. And also, having these secondary markets as well, where if you ended up with these shares, then you could find other investors that maybe wanted to do that. So, putting together buyers and sellers. And then also remember, maybe you want to take some of your loan, get more collateralized. We can put it together with other people that want more coins. Or maybe you need to get out of your claim, and then rather than go into some institutional hedge fund manager that's not giving you the best rate, you could be matched up with another creditor that wanted to actually take more exposure to that as well. So we're going to keep building all of that technology so that everybody can have these creditor-led reorganizations. If you're in the Celsius, you can still go into beta. We are still working through the rest of the processes, and you can connect your Celsius account. We've got thousands of people that created accounts in the waiting list that we're making sure that we get through to at the moment. Remember, it's not like the old in-compliant exchange where you just simply do a selfie. With securities, you actually have to comply with securities laws. So it's similar to opening a bank account sometimes. That can take a few weeks in order to get through that process to actually do this in the right way, now that we know that all these regulations are coming in compliance with securities laws and various other things that we've covered. So I am actually, for the first time, approximately sticking to the half hour as well. So we're going to be heading over to Twitter Spaces. A few things. So firstly, I'll keep doing Twitter Spaces where we give updates on the different Chapter 11. If you are new to my YouTube channel, if you're watching this on Twitter or something else, then YouTube's created this new handle thing. So you can go youtube.com/@SimonDixon21. 21 is the number for Bitcoin. It's my lucky number. It's also, I'm the 21st largest creditor in the Celsius case. So putting that together as a sign. So you can head over there, subscribe to my YouTube channel. You won't miss another update. We're getting ready. We've got about 6 different license applications that we've been working through over the last few years in order to be able to offer more and more services to our investors as the longest standing company in Bitcoin and the world's first regulated securities business in the sector that has supported many of the companies that have become multi-billion-dollar unicorns and created much of the innovation, like mining-backed securities, the first Bitcoin-backed bond in 2014, 2015. Based upon mining in Iceland, we've been through lots of securities laws reform. We've got some more coming, reforms that are happening in El Salvador so that we can bring more and more, Bitcoin-denominated securities and various other things as we move to the next phases of our sector and our industry. Also, we're going to be heading over to Twitter right now @SimonDixonTwit. And I'm going to take for 1 hour as many questions as possible. If you've got any questions around like the whole process, I'll reveal what I can. But remember, I'm also bound by certain of these processes because we're working as hard as we possibly can to get you your coins in custody and get you your assets and your securities that we use spent with your money, so that you can actually own them and you can have all the voluntary investment opportunities rather than the scammy forced investment opportunities. Okay, so always remember, you are alive at one of the most interesting and exciting times in financial history. Some are going to get hurt because we have these scammers in these industries that we need to flush out and get back to building based upon those that are actually going to create real services for people that are going to really need the support and do well. And we look forward to getting through to 2023 so that we can get the next phase of our industry, flush out all of this dodgy yield, flush out the bad players, have all these examination reports that exposes the people that have been doing bad actors, that are giving Bitcoin a bad name, because you are alive. We're doing this with peace. We're doing this with love. We're doing this with unity. And I'm going to head over to Twitter Spaces right now in order to take